The main story has actually just been developing a few moments ago, and it's a very, very serious situation, as even just a few days ago, we had a Ukrainian general predict that there's going to be a big war right at the Sea of Azov. And right now, there was a major escalation that happened right in the Sea of Azov, as this Ukrainian general warned, that needs to be taken very seriously. This is not a minor thing that just happened out of the blue. This is a major thing that historically has been happening with the ramping up of tensions between the Ukrainian people and, of course, the people of Russia, as even yesterday was the 85th year anniversary, the 85th year mark, where Joseph Stalin started a famine inside of Ukraine that killed an estimated 4 to 10 million people. The bad blood between Ukraine and Russia has existed for a very long time, and is only escalating to very dangerous proportions. That anger from Eastern Europeans against Russia is palpable. We felt it. I felt it myself when I was in Poland just a little bit over a week ago during, of course, the big Polish national parade there, and there was, of course, a huge sentiment against Russia. That sentiment exploded to a big crescendo, of course, during the Ukrainian Revolution that happened a few years ago, where the Ukrainian government went from being a pro-Russian government towards a more friendly government towards the European Union and NATO. And with that revolution that happened a few years ago, the United States, the European Union, of course, had invested interest in it. So did Russia. There was a lot of manipulation. There was a lot of pushing and supporting of both sides by these two world powers, trying to, of course, influence Ukraine, which is geopolitically situated in a very key strategic area. It is directly right on the border of Russia and, of course, all over the eastern bloc of the European continent. And it is a major battling ground that is becoming more tense as the situation in the sea is becoming to a moment where right now there are direct conflicts happening between Ukraine and Russia, and these tensions have been building for quite a long time, especially ever since Russia, of course, built their latest bridge connecting Crimea to the Russian mainland. And that's why this standoff between these two countries has been escalating, especially with Russia detaining and stopping a lot of Ukrainian ships along this major strategic trade route. If you watch any of our videos, we always talk about how historically all the major wars, all the major conflict zones happen around major trade routes. And this is a major trade routes where tensions between Ukrainian ships and Russian military ships have been building within the last few days, and they escalated towards today, where people are saying there's a huge potential for a huge large-scale war because of this very important strategic point that Russia captured a few years ago right on the sea where Crimea is located. The situation is only becoming more aggravated, and there are going to be more inspections, more seizing of boats, which have happened before by Russia in this very key strategic region. As we know, Russia has deployed some of its military along this new Crimea bridge, bridging this new Russian territory together with the Russian mainland, which neoconservatives and U.S. mainstream journalists a few months ago actually called for the bombing of. There's neoconservatives and U.S. journalists in the United States, as soon as this bridge was built by Russia, connecting the Russian mainland to Crimea, said specifically, all over the mainstream media, let's just bomb it. Let's make sure Ukraine attacks this very key strategic bridge that Putin specifically built to establish this trade route alongside Crimea. And obviously, with the tensions building, even a few days ago, the United Kingdom declared that they're going to be sending a series of military boats to conduct military exercises in that specific region in order to back up the Ukrainian ships in that region. And with that happening, we already have very strong hyperbolic language in the United Kingdom where we have UK generals coming out saying that Russia is far bigger of a threat than ISIS and Al-Qaeda is. So the fear-mongering, the escalating of tensions has already been happening before the incident that just happened moments ago that crescendoed it, that escalated it. And as we are hearing that Ukrainian ships were just damaged after being shot at and rammed at by Russian military boats. We actually have some of that video that was captured, and that's why we are getting confirmation from Russia themselves that they have seized 3 vessels that they actually shot at, where 3 Ukrainian citizens were actually injured in, and they have been giving them medical assistance and have captured the boats and have closed off that very key strategic area. And this is why the Ukrainian president right now is calling for an emergency session with, of course, his war cabinet. We're seeing other talks of the Ukrainian Air Force being placed in full combat readiness. And we're also hearing that Ukraine is ready to declare martial law after this latest sea clash that happened between the Ukrainian Navy and, of course, the Russian Navy just moments ago. Ukraine, of course, is saying that this is an act of war and that the ships are still seized by Russia. And, of course, the European Union is taking this very seriously, telling everyone to please to act on utmost restraint and to try to de-escalate the situation, because overall, this is a situation that there's a great chance for war. We have to understand this is a violent naval confrontation that happened between 2 powers that have been at each other's throat for a very long time. Even currently, there is still fighting happening inside of Ukraine, especially in the territory that is being disputed between Ukrainians who are more favorable towards Russia, and of course Ukrainians who are backed by the government who want their territory. Russia has been supporting the pro-Russian side inside of Ukraine, where there are still battles taking place. People have to understand there's still conflict happening between these factions, between Ukraine as a proxy, with of course the United States representing NATO and the European Union pushing Ukraine to be more favorable towards them, and Russia, of course, trying to galvanize most of that territory. Knowing that they lost Ukraine, they are still using it as a strategic place to test United States hegemony. And of course, the United States will see this as an act of aggression. You could definitely bet your bottom dollar that the United States is going to be responding here in one way or another, because guess what? The United States and Russia, even though you won't get this from the mainstream media, because on the mainstream media, they'll tell you that the U.S. government, that Donald Trump is in bed, that he's cozy with Vladimir Putin. That could be further than the truth because of Donald Trump's very aggressive neocon-influenced actions against Russia, whether in Ukraine, whether in the bigger Middle East policy, whether it's against Iran, whether it's supporting Saudi Arabia. Every step of the way, under the presidency of Donald Trump, he has been more aggressive than even his predecessor, Barack Obama. Even just a couple weeks ago, he's talking about scrapping the nuclear treaty with Russia that was started after the Cold War to bring peace between the 2 nations, which, of course, many people are saying brings us closer to a bigger conflict between Russia and the United States, to even a point where just a few days ago, there was actual talk within Russia talking about sending Russian troops and nuclear weapons to Cuba, because the United States is sending and supporting their military forces, their military bases all along Russia's bases. And Trump has gone way further than Barack Obama has ever had or even dared to go, and has even armed Ukraine with lethal weapons. Donald Trump armed Ukraine with anti-tank missiles, which of course greatly angered Russia. This, of course, is a proxy conflict. It's the testing of American hegemony, which is going to be happening during the 21st century. If you look at the bigger geopolitical picture, if you look and study into what has been happening in international relations, this is a conflict that is bound to happen. Will it be a bigger conflict, a bigger world war? I don't think so. The way I see this happening is, of course, smaller proxy wars that challenge the U.S. world supremacy world reserve currency, power, petrodollar mindset that has been so established. And this is why the century of the 21st century, the next 100 years, will be the challenging of that hegemony, and Ukraine is a key component to it. So is Syria, so is Poland. That's why Poland is talking about building another base there. So is Iran, and expect these conflicts to escalate to a point of very dangerous proportions, because guess what? They're already in very dangerous proportions, which we have been warning you about and telling you about for a very long time. Again, just watch all of our previous videos. We always talk about look out for Ukraine, look out for Poland, look out for Iran, look out for Syria, look out specifically for the major trade route that China is trying to also galvanize and protect in the South Asian Sea. Russia's doing the same thing, and today's actions is only a further testament of what we've been saying for a very long time, is that these world powers will keep colliding. There will be more proxy wars. This will lead to more of a destruction of relations, which of course you'll never hear about in the mainstream media. But that's why we do these videos, to give you a clear perspective on this bigger geopolitical picture that you won't get anywhere else. Very complicated picture, but a picture that hopefully we made a lot clearer for you with this video.